All right. What if the most important line in the Bible or in any story in the Bible isn't at the beginning and it isn't at the end either? What if the biblical authors expected you to find the story right in the middle? And look, and we've simply stopped seeing it, reading it the way that the original authors had or meant to. Today I want to show you something hidden in plain sight and something the biblical original authors assumed you'd notice. But here's the thing. I find that most modern readers completely miss. So, welcome. Let's just do this. Welcome to Morning Star Quest, where we are delving into the Bible one question at a time. And we don't want to rush the actual answers. We don't want to rush those questions, but just to slow down and actually see what's there. And today we're learning how the Bible it guides your eyes. And like I said, today in our modern setting, in our modern setting, we are missing that completely. Without ever telling you it's doing it, most of us are reading in straight lines. Beginning, middle, end. Very simple. But that's a modern way. But ancient writers often shape stories very differently. Instead of racing towards the end, they built their writing like a journey towards the center, and then they walked you back out the same way. The repetition isn't accidental. The symmetry isn't filler. It's a signal. So we just got to slow down because we're getting close. Let me show you what I mean. So the story of Noah. Let's go the story of Noah. Most of us remember the rain, the ark, the animals, the flood waters covering the earth. But what if the heart of the story isn't the storm? But what happens after the storm reaches its peak? Watch what the text does with time. And you can see it here. God remembers Noah. And we see here, if I've got it here, if we really delve into it, first the waters rise, rain falls for 40 days, then the water continues to increase for 150 days. Everything is moving towards something, and then suddenly the story stops climbing. Right at the turning point, what does the Bible say? What does it say just down here? God remembered Noah. Not at the end of the story. He didn't at the end of or not at the conclusion. Right in the center. God remembered Noah. Then watch what happens. And you can see it here again. The waters begin to recede 150 days. The earth dries over another 40 days. Same numbers, same order, but just now in reverse. Because this is the center of how these things work. It has an opening idea, a related idea, and then it has a closing idea, and it's reflecting of B, reflecting of C. And the flood is no different. And it's carefully walking you back out from the moment that matters most. The message of the flood isn't primarily about destruction. It's about remembrance, faithfulness. God hasn't forgotten and just thought, I remember Noah. God holding onto his promise even when the world looks absolutely and totally undone. The structure itself preaches this message before a single sermon is spoken. And here's the part that changes everything. This isn't a one-off. Oh, hi guys, how you going? Suffering in Silence and Jemiasa. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced that right. but welcome to you. And yeah, I'm going through this with the center of a story in the Bible, how ancient Near Eastern culture in stories, in poems, in prayers, in their laws, in entire books. Everything is based around the center. And once you learn to spot it, you stop reading scripture as disconnected episodes and you start seeing as carefully crafted invitations. Now, I've got to say, this is one thing that I found absolutely amazing, and that is I always couldn't work out how things like Genesis 1 to 11, and when you go from Genesis 1 to 11 in our modern way, well, it kind of just, sometimes you kind of try and put it together and it gets a little bit confusing. And with any story, I'm not saying every single story, every single poem, every single thing in the Bible is written this way. No, I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is that a lot of it is written this way because that's how the ancient authors in the Bible wanted you to see. Like, it walks up to the center, and then when it walks away from the center, you know, in a backwards organization, is that right? When it comes back, you will see that it actually changes something in the center. And then from there, it changes. And we start seeing it as carefully crafted invitations to pause at the center and listen. We don't miss this today because we're careless. We miss it because we're never taught to look for it. And even with, let's go to Genesis, in the whole of Genesis, you can see it here. Whoops, I'm just going to. Creation of the world. And then we have Call of Abram. This is the new creation. And I'm going to get into that in a sec. But the Garden of Eden. See, we have creation of the world. And then we have the Garden of Eden and the fall. We have Genesis 1 and generally Genesis 2. And everyone says they don't match. Technically, it is part of the story. But it's not supposed to match because Genesis 1 matches with Genesis 11. Genesis 2 with the Garden of Eden, this is matching Genesis 10. Cain and Abel's fall is the same as the Tower of Babel's fall. And you'll see that in every single story, well, I shouldn't say every single story, should I? But there are a lot of things, a lot of stories in the Bible, like Genesis 1 to 11, that makes a huge difference if we center on that center point with God remembers Noah. That is the focus. I'm not going to say it's the point. It is the focus of Genesis 1 to 11. And the call of Abraham or Abram, technically speaking, there's the end here with a little B tick and the A tick. Technically, that's B prime and A prime. They should be the other way around, but the call of Abram starts the next one of these structures going to the next. And yeah, it is so interesting. And people that are watching right now, have you, just give us a thumbs up if you've read it like this, or do you read the story in more of a modern way? I'd really like to know. So then let's go back to here. And yeah, I find that they are, passages can be very confusing if we do it in the modern way. But if we do it with this center in thought in our view and see it as the original authors, then it suddenly feels intentional. So here's the question I'll leave with you. What else have you been skimming past because we didn't know where to pause? So if this sparks something for you, subscribe, join the journey, because once you learn to see the Bible in this way, you won't read it the same again. And so go do something awesome for God, and I'll catch you